What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Phil. That's Sam.
Hey guys, welcome back.
We're coming back to Bo today, Bo Burnham, and it's been a while. We did Welcome to the Internet long time ago.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that one. I thought it was funny and had a lot of like witty, interesting takes.
Yeah, it was hilarious. I love that one. Killed it. Crushed it. He looked very different in that video than in this one here, the visual that we have on the screen.
I was just thinking that. I was like, he had like the hood on and this, didn't he have sunglasses on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's very dark as well.
Yeah. A little bit creepy.
Yeah, From God's Perspective here is from 2013. So I can't remember when he recorded Welcome to the Internet. I don't think it was like really recent when we had done it. It was a few years old, but I do think it had something to do with 2020 and the pandemic and stuff.
Yeah, I believe so.
So
I think it was after this for sure.
Yeah, 6 or 7 years later, I would imagine, from this here. So we're getting to see an earlier version of Bo. He's been doing his thing for a while. I think we were reading since like the early 2000s. He's been putting out material. So he's, I think got a strong following on YouTube. And I don't know if he has anything coming up soon.
Well, I can see why, because I feel like it's pretty unique. It's like he blends music and comedy together, which you don't see that often.
Yeah. So let us know if there's other stuff from Bo that you want us to check out. If you enjoy our video, make sure you hit the like button so the video can reach more people. We really appreciate your support. And we wouldn't be where we are today without you guys. So thank you so much. All right, you ready to check out some more from Bo?
Let's do it.
Let's go.
There's things that I don't want to come across in my show that I worry often come across about me, because people don't realize that it's an act up here. I don't want you to ever think that I think I'm better than people or that I think I know better than people. Anyway, sorry. Okay. This is a song from the perspective of God.
Nice introduction there.
The books you think I wrote are way too thick. Who needs 1,000 metaphors to figure out you shouldn't be a dick? And I don't watch you when you sleep. Surprisingly, I don't use my omnipotence to be a fucking creep. You're not going to heaven. Why the fuck would you think I'd ever kick it with you? None of you are going to heaven. There's a trillion aliens cooler than you. You shouldn't abstain from rape just 'cause you think that I want you to. You shouldn't rape 'cause rape is a fucked up thing to do. Pretty obvious, just don't fucking rape people. Didn't think I had to write that one down for you. I don't think masturbation is obscene. It's absolutely natural and the weirdest fucking thing I've ever seen. You make my job a living hell. I send gays to fix overpopulation. Boy, did that go well. You're not going to heaven. Eat 1,000 crackers, sing 1,000,000 hymns. None of you are going to heaven. You're not my children. You're a bad game of Sim. You shouldn't abstain from pork just 'cause you think that I want you to. You can eat pork, 'cause why the fuck would I give a shit? I created the universe. Think I'm drawing the line at the fucking deli aisle?
All right, this is interesting. Like, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this one because, Sam and I, faith is an important part of our life, and it's helped us, I think, in a lot of positive ways. I'm not going to speak for you, but
yeah, no, for sure.
So I wasn't sure from God's perspective and, what this was going to look like, but he's doing a great job at just, playing both sides of it, not being too inflammatory, but trying to highlight the discrepancies and sometimes how we approach, whether it's religion or spirituality. And, it's interesting because, like, immediately I will think like God's perspective and what I picture God as, or what it is, or whatever. And you have specific religions that all generally have the same kind of ideas within them.
Yeah. With small differences.
With small differences, right? And so it's just, interesting how my perspective on what he's talking about is going to be different than another person's religion and what their perspective is.
Yeah.
But you can kind of resonate with so much of the stuff that he's still referencing in this.
Yeah.
Because, he mentioned the pork line there at the end, right? And there's,
So if you're like Jewish, for example, and you can't eat pork.
yeah, I think there's a couple of religions actually that that's it's not clean meat, so to speak, right? But that doesn't apply to our faith and our belief, right? And so I think that's part of the creativity and the genius to an extent with this, is that highlighting the hypocrisy and some of what we believe and how we carry ourselves doesn't resonate all together in humanity. And that's where I think he throws in that idea of, I don't need to tell you whatever your religion is, a specific religion doesn't need to tell you that the R word, I'm not going to repeat it because I don't know.
I was just thinking this, that like you don't need a book to tell you that that's bad,
right,
and not to do that.
Right. But like, that's like both sides, right? You have one saying, don't eat pork. And then, not everybody follows that, but everybody should be logically able to follow the idea that you don't take those actions because they harm humanity as a whole.
Yeah.
Right. And so from God's perspective, it's just, he's throwing it all together now, highlighting the hypocrisy in it, not in a way that's too inflammatory, but in a way that, if you were God and you were looking at this and you're like, do I really have to tell you that, not to do that? It makes sense, right? It all comes together well.
Yeah. I think there's also just like funny, like he's just adding in like a comedic, like talking about like, it's like a bad game of Sims. Cause it's like, well, it's like he knows the bigger picture and the bigger plan and what's going to happen. Right. Or like how like he doesn't watch that you're sleeping. Right. But it's like, when people always say like God's always watching. Right. But he's like, no, I got better things to do than to watch you sit and be a creep and watch you sleep. Yeah. Right.
The world doesn't revolve around you,
exactly,
so to speak. Right.
Yeah.
There's grander things that are going on. So, I mean, I like I said, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about this one, but I think he's just doing an excellent job and showcase, even in the beginning, right in his introduction there, he's alluding to like, don't get offended when I say this. Yeah. I don't think I'm better than everybody else, but I'm going to tell you from God's perspective. Like a great way to segue into the song as a whole, right?
I think it's just like any other touchy subjects we've talked about with comedy before, right? If you're good at being a comedian and you're good at your job, you're able to elicit like a comedic reaction to something, even though it might be a touchy subject.
Yeah, but I think this in particular with him, in my opinion, it just shows his intellectual capabilities of being introspective to deep think about this idea.
Yeah.
To like, because you have to think about this, like his lyrics, the way he's putting it together, you have to really think deeply about it. And he's not coming off in a way that he's like for atheism, against atheism, for religion, against religion. He's not coming in off in a way that's anything like that. Maybe we'll get into that later on. I don't know. But he's approaching it in a way that is thought-provoking, which is very, very good. Yeah. It's very, very creative. And it's, like I said, a high intellectual conversation, which is, I think, in general, surrounding spirituality, something that we're lacking is the ability to have an intellectual conversation about it. So it's beautiful in the sense that you, like you said, when you're a great comedian and you're smart and you're quick-witted and all that stuff, you can do something like this. But it's not something where you can just be inflammatory in this subject and it's going to resonate with a lot of people.
Yeah, and I feel like in a lot of other videos we've done that is a more sensitive subject. You've always said like it's when you can take it and have people have a conversation about it, like that's the benefit of being able to do comedy on those topics. Right?
All right, let's keep it going. We've been talking too much already. Let's roll back.
Pretty obvious, just don't fucking rape people. Didn't think I had to write that one down for you. I don't think masturbation is obscene. It's absolutely natural and the weirdest fucking thing I've ever seen. You make my job a living hell. I send gays to fix overpopulation. Boy, did that go well. You're not going to heaven.
Even Even that look.
Eat 1,000
You're not going to heaven.
crackers, sing 1,000,000 hymns. None of you are going to heaven. You're not my children, you're a bad game of sim. You shouldn't abstain from pork just 'cause you think that I want you to. You can eat pork, 'cause why the fuck would I give a shit? I created the universe. Think I'm drawing the line at the fucking deli aisle? You argue and you bicker and you fight. Atheists and Catholics, Jews and Hindus argue day and night over what they think is true. But no one entertains the thought that maybe God does not believe in you. You pray so badly for heaven, knowing any day might be the day that you die. But maybe life on earth could be heaven. Doesn't just the thought of it make it worth a try? My love's the type of thing that you have to earn, and when you earn it, you won't need it. Oh, my love's the type of thing that you have to earn, and when you earn it, you won't need it. I'm not gonna give you love just 'cause I know that you want me to. If you want love, then the love has gotta come from you.
Well, it was towards the end. You could almost hear a pin drop in the room.
I know.
Everybody got quiet and
Zoned in.
we're zoned in, and which is also pretty remarkable when you put on, like I said, a performance like that where it's supposed to be comedic, but it ends up being introspective in the same light. Finishes with the line, the love's got to come from yourself first, right?
Yep.
And you got to kind of lead with love, and saying that, making a mention to another line was maybe God doesn't believe in you.
Yeah.
Right, which is interesting because he also had, I made mention where he had points where he like looked out in the audience and was kind of
Gave a little look.
yeah, saying you're not going to heaven, right?
Yeah.
And that kind of plays into God doesn't believe in you. And it's interesting because I think religion, part of the problem with religion is that it, for a time period anyways, it got into this, you must live your life this way, right? And that really turned off a lot of people, right? Whereas as I've grown in my own journey, I've realized that it's a lot about a relationship, right? It's like building a relationship. It's building strength in that relationship. And when you think about it as a relationship, what he said in this, a lot of it makes sense, right? Because, if you want God to love you, then you need to show love to him, right? Mm-hmm. And, or if you want to, as he said, have like a heaven on earth, if we all tried to live like Jesus as an example, then we would probably have a place pretty similar to heaven as it is here on earth,
yeah.
right? And so I think that's the part of that relationship dynamic that's very interesting, is if we embodied the teachings of Jesus Christ, for example. You could use any religion you want, your own personal preference there. And if you embodied those teachings, then we'd all probably be better off for it. And then that appreciation, of your, God's grace, the way you're looked upon in that regard, would also be magnified. So I think it's just very interesting. Like I said, the introspectiveness of this song, if you wanted to, you probably could get offended by it. But for me personally, I think you did a great job at, at least stoking a conversation for people, whatever side of the aisle you fall on.
Yeah, for sure. And I think also like a line in there he used was that you could eat all the crackers and sing all the hymns, right? And I think he's making reference of going to church.
That's
there.
religion. Yeah, that's the religious aspect. Yeah.
Like to go to, like what I'm saying is that there's people who go to church, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they have that relationship that you were talking about, or that they actually embody the practices of that religion, right?
That's what I'm saying is that's religion versus relationship.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm agreeing with you, but I'm just saying that specific specific line that he said there made me think about how so many people go to church religiously week after week just so that they can go to heaven, right? This idea of that, like, if I show up every Sunday and I do that for my whole life, then like I'll automatically go to heaven, right? But that has nothing to do with like your, like you said, the underlying relationship that you actually have.
Yeah, and I think like we are a part of, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of it, maybe some of you have. VU Church is an online church that we think is great, and they have more of a modern approach to the way you approach your own faith, as you just said, right? It's like, it's not so much about, you know, praying every day if you don't truly believe in the principles that come with that, and you should be working on the relationship dynamic of, you know, understanding why the principles are what they are. But coming back to the VU Church that I mentioned, is I really do like this more modern approach that they've taken to, I think, reinvigorating and drawing a better understanding of what our faith should look like, rather than, you know, people trying to direct you and tell you this is the meaning. Because at the end of the day, you have your own personal experience, I think, with faith, and you have to find that on your own, and that will strengthen it. But when you're told this is like when you have a human being telling you this is what this means, or, you know, you should be doing this, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because it's a human being that's telling you that, right?
Yeah, and also going through the actions just to go through the actions, not because there's actually like purpose or connection behind it.
Yeah, and I think that's the problem, right? As human beings, will tell you this is what you have to do, so you don't develop or build any connection to it, because it's just, you know, you've been told, right? But I think that's what's evolving, I feel like now, in some faith-based communities and ideas, is that, you know, what a section of scripture can mean to you at a given point in your life can mean something very different than to somebody else. But it's finding the layers within that scripture, I think, that matters. Is like, what does this mean? And that's why there's so many smart people out there nowadays that we can use to say, like, break this down. What could this mean if we were trying to decipher this as a language, from a spiritual language? Because the way I look at the Bible is more of like a blueprint to how you live your life. And, you know, there's going to be nuance in it, but to take something literal and say, like, oh, this experience from something in the Old Testament means that it's applicable in the exact same way today, is not how I view things. I view it a little bit differently than maybe what people would view it 50 years ago. But I think that's an evolution. And, you know, I think even when you look at the Old Testament to the New Testament, there was an evolution from that standpoint of the faith and how we evolved as a society as well. Yep. So anyways, I don't want to keep going too deep on that. I'm just, you know, I think Bo deserves a lot of credit for tackling this subject, doing it in, I think, in a tasteful way. Yep. And, you know, stoking a conversation that I think needs to be had, because all that said, you know, God's perspective and the hypocrisy of the way we can view the world and the holes that we can poke in it, I do think that faith is really an important concept that everybody should consider, because it really, I think, starts to help you identify purpose in your life.
Yeah, for sure. I think he did a good job too.
All right, guys, I'll stop ranting now. And I hope you guys have a blessed day at that. Kudos to Bo for doing his thing.
Yeah, I'd like to see more from him. I like him.
Yeah, for sure. Give us some recommendations down below in the comments. Hit that like button if you enjoyed our video, and we hope you come back tomorrow. We see you then.
Thanks for watching, guys.